Always look forward to the Fantastic Film Festival of Australia. If you're looking for outlandish, challenging films that you're really going to think about or talk about for a long time afterwards, then you don't want to miss the Fantastic Film Festival of Australia. And it's back 14th to the 30th of April at the Lido Cinema in Melbourne and the Ritz Cinema in Sydney. And as always, it's my pleasure to talk to the artistic director of the Fantastic Film Festival of Australia, Hudson Sowada. Hudson, welcome again to Movie Metropolis.
G'day, great to be back, Peter.
Good to catch up with you again. And I must say, I was at the launch of the festival to see Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, which is getting a commercial release end of the month. But what an interesting way to set off the launch of this year's film festival.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a long time D&D player, and D&D's been a big part of the festival program since it started. We had D&D nights every year with professional dungeon masters coming in and running nights of the game for our punters. So it was just, fantastic timing that the release of the film lined up with our event, and it was great working with the local distributors. They were really enthusiastic and super supportive, which was really unique for a Hollywood blockbuster. Like how excited they were to get some word of mouth and some traction for it with us, and I think it's a testament to the film that we were just speaking earlier that it's a film that catches audiences by surprise. They're not expecting it to be so fun and funny and silly and goofy, which is what D&D is. It's just really goofy anyway. So yeah, I think they really nailed it. And it was just an awesome party in that cinema as everybody was kind of going along that kind of fantasy journey. So, yeah, that was
Absolutely.
great.
Absolutely, and really enjoyed it. So, all right, now horror, science fiction, fantasy, challenging films, all part of the festival. And there are 27 films this year too, which is incredible. Tell me about the challenges you faced in finding appropriate films for this year's festival.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great question. And I feel like each year, I guess, vision about what makes a film fantastic kind of changes a little bit. And I think this year it's a really confident program of films that are breaking the status quo, challenging convention, have a bit of a punk rock attitude, but also just films that are really fun, like with a sense of play and joyful and exciting. So that's kind of what I was looking out for this program, and also spending a lot of time, much more time than previous years, looking at local talent in Australia. So talking to local filmmakers and working with them on presenting screenings. So I'm really proud of the amount of Australian talent on display this year. We've got 4 Australian feature films playing in the program, which is great. So that's one side of it. But in regards to some of the difficulties, I mean, it's always an interesting process, because you can only know so much about a film from reading a little synopses. But and so you go through, I watch hundreds of films a year trying to find that kind of that feeling that I'm looking for, and I think there's a lot in there that it's scratching that cinematic itch that I'm looking for. Yeah, I mean, as in regards to difficulties, it's always interesting looking at each year from the next, and how COVID sometimes is still having ripple effects with the scales of the productions. And there's a lot of films set in one location here. There's a lot of films that are really intimate and personal, and I think that's following through in some ways. But all that being said, I'm really proud of the program this year, and I think people are going to have an absolute hoot and finding some great discoveries along the way for sure.
Look, having a look at the films in the program, etc., I tend to agree with you. There's some really interesting stuff there. And you mentioned Australian films, the 4 films, one of which I'm really looking forward to seeing is Rolf de Heer's new film, Survival of Kindness.
Absolutely. This was, it's one of the key pillars of this year's program, the Survival of Kindness. It just recently played in Berlin to some incredible responses. It's an Australian film not like anything that I've truly seen before. It's poetic, it's dystopian, it's violent at times, but also really tender and compassionate as well. It follows this woman's journey through this surreal Australian landscape in this I guess it's a kind of dystopian setting, as she's gone from one confusing and concerning encounter to the next. And speaking with Rolf and reading up and learning about the story of the production, there's that some of the themes are carried through from the experience of First Nations Australians through COVID, and that's intertwined with some of the subtext of the plot through this journey through this toxic kind of Australian setting. And I don't want to fire all the cannons and give away too much of this film, because it really is something that you can unravel and really pull out the pieces that mean something to you. But it's backed by an incredible performance by this newcomer Majemi, who has never been in a cinema, let alone acted before she took part in this film. And she is just incredible. The amount of emotion and intensity that she brings to this film is really special. And Rolf just has a magical way of bringing that out in his performance. So it's a special one. And for those in Sydney, Rolf will be in attendance for a Q&A, and we're looking at streaming that as well live to the Lido with an interactive element too. So not to be missed, most doubt.
Sounds excellent. And just to briefly mention the other three Australian films, End of History, Blur, and Beaten to Death, which sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes. Yeah. So they're all fun, I guess, in their different ways. And I mean, it's always fun to be in a cinema with the filmmakers there, and there's cast and crew, and everybody's in amongst it. That's always fun, no matter what's on screen. I mean, Beaten to Death is just a great example of this new wave of hardcore exploitation films that just does not let up from the very start, where a guy is literally getting the snot beaten out of him, and the rest of the film is him, going from one ordeal to the next, trying to survive the Australian outback. And Blur is a fantastic example of a Australian giallo kind of supernatural suspense mystery murder film with it's kind of cosmic demon, which is a lot of fun as well. And the first time it's ever going to be screened or the first time it's ever been screened in a cinema, which is great, and the international premiere, which is awesome. And then End of History is just a great ode to do-it-yourself filmmaking, all shot by people who've never made a film before, but they've gone out and created this incredible piece of capturing these two kind of drop kick characters as they're stuck in Berlin, or when all they want to go do is go clubbing and make music, and how when that is taken away, the guise of that lifestyle is just a very toxic, self-destructive, and deeply concerning kind of lifestyle. So, and they're going to be performing live in the cinema, the music from the film in a Spinal Tap style performance. So, and then we were also screening a multimedia poetry, dance film, and live reading event called Text Message from the Universe, where there's a dance film that's been made that has an accompaniment, a poetry accompaniment, and we're providing copies of this poetry publication that's going to be read live in the cinema to the film as well, by Richard James Allen, a prolific Sydney creative. So yeah, there's a lot of Aussie stuff in the feature film department this year, which is exciting.
Sounds great. And I can think of worse things than being stuck in Berlin, but that's another story. Anyway, the text message film, I think, is in Sydney only, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, let's talk about some of the other films, including what looks like a really fascinating opening night film from the UK called Polite Society.
Yeah, so Polite Society was a breakout of Sundance, and it's one part heist film, another part comedy, kind of slapstick film, and another part martial arts action extravaganza. And it kind of comes together in a way that feels like an early Edgar Wright film, as a really explosive, over the top, hilarious romp, and is already being kind of heralded as the UK's answer to Everything Everywhere All at Once, which again, is just a great testament to the enthusiasm and the drive for new and fresh cinema. And it was awesome to be a part of that film last year for our program launch. So I think of people who were fans of that high octane spirit are going to find a lot to love in Polite Society. Yeah, it's just kicking off the festival with a lot of fun and a lot of enthusiasm. And it's going to be a party in that screening for sure.
Sounds terrific. Now, my eye was drawn to a title called Nitrate to the Ghosts of 75 Lost Philippine Silent Films, 1912 to 1933. Amazing. This sounds incredible.
Oh, this is one of my little hidden gems for the Melbourne audience. We partnered with a film collective called Dog Milk, who put on regular screenings in Melbourne of local films and local film collectives, and they collaborate with different people in the community to put together film events. And they have an incredible, enthusiastic audience, and have been wanting to work with them for a long time. So we worked together to develop this program of this Filipino program in the festival, where the film is directed by a filmmaker called Kavan, and he's heralded as the godfather of digital Filipino filmmaking. And we've got a collection of his shorts, his latest film, Nitrate, and we're planning a Q&A with him as well afterwards. And Dog Milk will be screening more of his work outside of the festival too. But the way that this film in particular works, it's really like a mashup and a montage of these incredible sequences from these lost and recently restored and recovered Filipino genre film, and the footage is unbelievable, and the cinematography, it's reminiscent of those early kind of German expressionism works with like big close-up of eyes and overlaying the incredible sets and bat monsters and demons and vampires and ghouls and stuff, all with that beautiful colored print, the black and white print recolored. It just looks stunning, and it's a real sensory onslaught as Kavan's edited them together to create a moving image kind of mixtape of this work. It's a very special film, and I think the audience is going to be really surprised by it.
Sounds incredible. Now, and we've sort of been talking around this. I also am interested in German films in particular, and I noticed you've got two that drew my attention: Holy Shit and the Ordinaries.
So like with the title, like Holy Shit, this obviously draws a lot of eyeballs, and the film just kicks ass. It's just the setup essentially is a guy wakes up impaled upside down in a in a portable toilet, and then he realizes that the toilet is packed full of a shitload of explosives, and he has like an hour to escape before the whole thing blows up, and he's like figuring out why he's there and like trying to like make a signal with a fire, and he lights the thing on fire, and he's like talking to the toilet like it's Wilson from Castaway, and it's just madness. But under less experienced hands, it would be just like a bit of a goofy silly film, and it is that, but it also has a really tight script and great performances that really ground it and make it a really excellent package that's just really well put together. So it's a lot of fun. It's people are going to have an absolute blast with that one for sure. And then the other one, The Ordinaries, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about, is a really very unique title as well. It's set in this fictional universe where you're born as either a main character or a side character or an outtake or a deleted scene, or maybe you're born and your voice doesn't work properly, so there's like static or there's like echo in your voice, and it's like all these inside jokes about the elements of filmmaking and the way that they impact this world. And then this young girl thinks she's born as a main character, and then realizes that perhaps her family history isn't actually as truthful as she thought, and she goes on this journey of self-discovery and tries to understand the systems behind this social structure. So yeah, it's a very unique world, and it's also a musical as well. So they'll like burst out into song in the middle of a very intense sequence. But anyway, yeah, it's a fun ride.
I love the range of films. It's most incredible, and I have memories. I was very young at the time of Smell-O-Vision,
Yeah.
where you scratch and sniff and you see the film and you smell what's happening on screen. I thought, but I know you've resurrected the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film in Stinker-Vision. I'm sure that
That's
will appeal
right.
to a lot of people.
Yeah, look, so we were like the way the event works is we've worked with the world's finest centographers, they call them, these people who go around designing these scents for these cards, and we put together a package where throughout the film, the original 90s Teenage Ninja Turtles, there's these little icons which will pop up in different sequences in the film, and they have a number on them, and then you scratch the number on the card and you smell the scent. So it's like they might be eating pizza, or they might be in the sewer, or they might be like, running around the city, and there's a certain scent that makes sense for the scratch and sniff. So there's about 9 different scents also throughout the film, and it's just going to be a bit hilarious to have all these people in the cinema scratching these cards, and the smell just going everywhere. It's fun. So it's like in that spirit of the John Waters would do these scratch and sniff screenings as well, and obviously in your you've been to these events before, so they're a lot of fun, and just it's going to be a good time.
Wow, talk about a range of films from holy shit to a film that's on the nose. It's well done. All right. Now, another film that sounds very interesting indeed is a film called Zillion.
Yeah, absolutely. So Zillion is the story of a this guy who wants to build the best discotheque in the world, and he's got a mind for computers and numbers, and really just wants to put on the biggest party the world has ever seen. So he goes out there and he enlists the help of the most successful porn director in the town, and they build this from nothing, this huge nightclub, and it's the story of rags to riches, and the fall afterwards is all the betrayal and the drugs and the sex and the nightclub kind of lifestyle, how it destroys these people, and has some of the best party sequences ever put to screen. Thousands of people all dancing to some of the most important hardcore techno tracks of the 90s in Europe, and it was one of the highest grossing films in its hometown of Belgium, even beating out Top Gun Maverick and the Marvel films of last year. So the scale is really impressive.
Okay, very good. Now, I always like to see a restored film, and Takashi Miike's incredibly in-your-face film Audition from 2000, the Japanese film. You're screening that as a restored print.
Yeah, that's right. So the Audition has been a personal favorite of mine, and it's been a really long time since anybody in Australia has had the chance to screen it. It hasn't been available in Australia for a really long time, so it's been great working with the local distributors to bring that back to cinema screens. And it's such a special film in the horror film history canon. It starts out as what is kind of a twisted kind of romance drama film, and it's not really clear why it's even considered a horror film. Until the last, the second half, it has the best reversal, the genre flip of all time. And in my mind, it really goes completely off the rails for the last half of the film in a really exciting and unique way. And also, it's just a really sharp social commentary as well about Japanese patriarchal kind of entitlement, and has a really strong kind of feminist undertone as well to it. So it's really the whole package, and I think people are going to love watching it together on the big screen again.
Oh, excellent stuff. And speaking of out there films, another one with a title that is incredible, an untitled and perfectly legal coming of age parody film. Tell me about that one.
Yeah, so that one is named a bit ominously because of a legal dispute around this film, and I can't actually say the name of the film online, but it's had its premiere at Toronto last year, and after its first screening, it got pulled and cancelled due to some legal disputes. But we're really pleased that after working with the filmmakers and their legal team and some people here in Melbourne as well, we've been approved for one of the only international screenings of the film, and actually flying out the director for a Q&A as well at both Melbourne and Sydney. But all I guess I can say is that it involves some of the most recognizable superhero kind of characters in contemporary pop culture that have been, I guess, subverted in this trans coming of age parody comedy film that is right in line with the works of Tim and Eric and Nathan For You and the Eric Andre Show, with this kind of like very warped, perverted kind of comedy. And it's a really, really special film. And tickets are already flying out the window. So I think people can kind of have figured out what film it is. So that's definitely a
Ah,
highlight for sure.
okay. So that, yeah, as you say, it has another title. That's not the actual title of the film. So
Yeah.
sounds sounds very interesting. Now, The Evil Dead Rise. Excellent. It's great that you're showing this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reviews have just started coming out as well the last couple of days, and they are just unreal. And we're screening it at midnight as well. There's just something very strange that happens in the cinema past midnight, knowing that, mostly everybody's asleep, and, you're just sitting there with all these people in this kind of ungodly hour. It just kind of brings out a very strange kind of energy in that space. And I just can't think of a better way to watch the new entry in one of the horror's most beloved franchises. So it's going to be a blast. It's going to be so fun.
I'm sure it will be a lot of fun. And speaking of that, you've brought back the nude screening, which, speaking of horror, and you're and doubling down on horror, you're screening Zoolander for that nude screening. That is
That's
horrifying.
that. Yeah, so the nude screening, as what started as a bit of I guess a gag, has now become one of the key parts of the program. And people, like, we get messages almost weekly about when's the next nude screening? When are we going to do the next nude screening? So, and I was spending a lot of time thinking about what would suit, a nude environment. There's a few things that it needs to have. It can't be like too sexy. It can't be like too violent. It needs to be like light and enjoyable and fun and playful. And Zoolander is just a film that, doesn't, it's so appreciated in the comedy kind of catalog, but it just doesn't appear so much in cinema screens. And it's a big TikTok sensation as well. I'm not sure if you're on TikTok, Peter, but it's all over TikTok at the moment. And also, just I think it just really suits the spirit of those nude screenings, the ridiculous comedy of Zoolander. I was actually originally going to do Cats, the recent Cats film, like with the naked cats running around. That was like the plan, but Zoolander, I think, really hits the nail on the head for the energy of that session. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Wow. I can just imagine Cats as a nude screening with everyone acting in a feline sort of way. But anyway, and that film itself was a horror, but we won't go there. We won't go there. Now, the closing night film sounds really intriguing, a film called Lion Girl.
Yeah, that's right. So Blind Girl, I guess it's a Japanese exploitation film. It's an action film. It's an apocalyptic sci-fi film, but it's also an erotic film as well. This film is full of so much nudity for absolutely no reason, but as they're like battling demons from outer space, all butt naked, and they're like with these great practical effects with like huge demon horns, and they're like shooting mind lasers to like melt people's brains and like eating people alive, and it's just carnage. It's absolute carnage. But with the Fantastic Fest kind of energy, we usually try and wrap up on the most insane thing I've seen of the year, and this absolutely is that. And yeah, I was trying to see if it had screened anywhere else, but I really can't find any information about previous screenings. I found it from a Japanese sales agent who just had it within their catalog around other titles, but it really is just absolutely mind-boggling, and just so fun. It's just so much fun. Yeah.
Well, it's great to have these discoveries too, because I mean, a number of films travel film festivals and so on. But it's nice to find a film, for example, that has hardly been seen at all. So that's really interesting programming. That's great. That's great.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I only have a few minutes left, knowing how Zoom works. And I notice you've got a couple of films from Spain, which sound intriguing. Piety and Manticore. Um,
Yeah, so Manticore, it's a really interesting one because it doesn't really play in classically genre kind of space. It's not really a traditional horror with monsters and violence or anything. It uses the style and tone of a horror film to explore a really personal character study of this man who lives in it's a form of isolation, self-isolation, and he forms this relationship with this woman, and throughout their relationship, you start to realize that there's things seriously wrong with this guy, and you really, it's all from his perspective, and you follow him so intimately. You start to see the cracks and some of his darkness behind it, and it's just an incredibly powerful piece of dark drama using the genre style to tell the story, and really makes you reflect on your own capacity, I guess, for evil within us all. So yeah, it's a really powerful piece, and had just an incredible response from the international circuit. So really one to watch for sure. And then the other one is, next to Lion Girl, this is probably the other most insane film in the program. Absolutely mind-boggling. It's called Pity, or Le Pitiad. And it's even hard to kind of explain. It's, one part Almodovar, another part like David Lynch, or, it's got a little bit of John Waters in there as well, as it follows this really warped relationship between a mother and daughter, sorry, a daughter and a mother and son, as the son is diagnosed with cancer, and then the mother just is like smothering him with just with her love, and that love is dark and weird and twisted, and yeah, I guess it's hard to kind of really explain this film without going to see it, but it just has some of the most jaw-droppingly shocking imagery as their lives are. They're both kind of slowly going insane through this process, and it is a horror film, but it's also a comedy, and it's also just like really reminiscent of that early Lynch work, like Eraserhead, that kind of a very weird sense of reality and time and space. So it's awesome.
okay, okay. And of course, you've got a collection of short films as well.
Yeah, that's right. So, short films, a really important part of the program and as a tone setter for each film. So we spend a lot of time, carefully curating the shorts to match the films that they accompany, and really looking for the most WTF spirited shorts in the world. And it's great to have an Australian one in there this year as well. And the opening night short, Gnomes, is going to, I think, freak the hell out of people. It only goes for about 3 minutes, but just follows these like puppet gnomes as they literally tear people apart to turn them into sausages. It's like, it's crazy, but it's a lot of fun. And I feel like I'm ending every film with it's a lot of fun, but it really is, it's a good time. So yeah, we've got 8 shorts lined up this year. So, and I think, they're the kind of things that will just really catch people off guard as they walk into a film, for sure.
Okay, okay. Now, before we go to the details on the website and how people can see these films, etc., are there any other films you would like to mention, Hudson, that audience should know about?
Yeah, well, the other event that we're really proud of presenting each year is the Music Video Blind Date, which is in its second year this year, where we've collaborated with Melbourne's best musical talent and connected them with the most up-and-coming filmmaking talent. So the way it kind of works is we gathered this music in collaboration with these bands and gone out there and found filmmakers to make these music videos for these artists, and that bands haven't seen the music videos yet, and they've all been made, and now we're going to get everybody together, all the filmmakers and all the bands in the cinema, and watch them together on the big screen. So we're really proud of the lineup of bands this year. They're really some of the best that Melbourne has to offer. And yeah, I've already seen a couple of the shorts come through, a couple of the music videos come through, and they're just spectacular. And I think the bands are really excited. And it's just like a really great community-driven experiment to really help kickstart some filmmaking careers and give bands some content that they can use to get their songs out there and audiences as well. So, we're really excited about that event in Melbourne. But I think we've really covered, a really good scope of the program in this conversation. So really the idea of Fantastic Fest is to foster a sense of discovery as well. It's for a curious audience who are willing to take some risks and just let, I guess, the films take them to places that they wouldn't expect. And I hope people find that in this year's program.
Oh, terrific stuff. Good. It's good to have these challenging films and weird and wonderful and unusual films. I think that's so important to see those, and not just the typical blah mainstream films that that we're so used to. So
yeah, it's just more fun. That's it. At the end of the day,
yeah,
it's just way more fun to be trying something new and to no matter how much it works or it doesn't work, it's always so exciting to see somebody having a crack at something that is unlike anything else before, and that's what we're about here at Fantastic Fest. So
exactly. So Lido Cinema in Melbourne and Rich Cinema in Sydney, 14th to 30th of April. Let's talk about the website and how people can get tickets, all that sort of thing.
yeah, absolutely. So you can go to our website. If you just type in Fantastic Film Festival Australia, you can head to our website and it has all of our tickets and events and details on the screenings. You can also buy tickets through the cinema websites as well, the Lido and the Ritz website. We're really active on Facebook and Instagram, and we have more events and stuff planned coming that will be announced through there too. And we also are really big users of Letterboxd for those who use that space. We love to see people writing reviews and tagging us and things, and we like to share those. So Letterboxd users, are really welcome at Fantastic Fest too. So I guess they're the main places that we hang out. And we also just started a TikTok as well, so those can use that too.
Okay. Look, it all sounds terrific, Hudson. And just before I let you go, you know what I'm going to ask you now. Outside of the festival, have you seen anything else of late? Anywhere, streaming, cinema,
Yes.
whatever, that has impressed you?
So Australia is about to get the best Australian horror film in the last 10 years coming to cinemas in a few months. It's called Talk to Me. It just played at Sundance early this year, and it is just the most incredible, fun, energetic Aussie horror film production. It just came out of nowhere and is completely blowing people's minds over in America. It got picked up by A24, recently, so they're releasing it over there, and it follows this group of teenagers in Adelaide who have this porcelain hand, and if you hold the hand for too long, you get possessed by a demon. But if you hold it for just the right amount of time, you can kind of get high off it. So they go to parties and get around in a circle and all get possessed by this hand, and obviously things go wrong, and these kids have to try and uncurse themselves, break this curse, as the whole life is kind of falling apart through it. And it's just awesome. It's so good. It's kind of very reminiscent of, I guess, a Blumhouse style, a Conjuring style, but with a distinctly Australian flair too. So that's certainly one to be watching out for. I think it'll be June, July. It'll be hitting Australian cinemas. So that's certainly one to watch.
Talk to Me is the title.
Talk to Me. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds
made
very
by
intriguing.
It's the first time filmmakers by these two YouTube creators, and they're produced by the team behind The Babadook and The Nightingale, and so it's got a really great team. So yeah. Don't sleep on it.
I will keep that one in mind, and certainly, certainly everyone listening to this, watching this interview, book tickets for the Fantastic Film Festival of Australia, screening 14th to 30th of April. And it's been my pleasure, as always, to talk to the artistic director of the Fantastic Film Festival, Hudson Sowada. Hudson, thanks again for talking with me.
Awesome to be here. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for your time.
All the best. Bye-bye.